My name is Boyd Varty. I think of myself as an artist of experience. My passion is to create transformational experiences for myself and others as a way to explore what it means to truly live. My central exploration is to live on what I would call the track of your life. To me, this is to live courageously towards the discovery of what you are called to and to what life asks of you. So much of how I live has been informed by my passion as an animal tracker. I'm following the trail of my own life and reporting back. This show is a daily broadcast from a treehouse on the Londolozi Game Reserve in the wild eastern part of South Africa. Londolozi is a 14,000 hectare wilderness reserve adjacent to the Kruger National Park. The land is home to lion, leopard, rhino, elephant and buffalo, as well as a variety of other animals. I am your host, Boyd Varty. My goal is to spend 40 days and 40 nights alone in the wilderness to explore the archetype of the mystic in nature and hone my skills as a tracker. These are my daily stories. Day 24. Pegasus. Journal entry. My decision to suspend all river bathing when the waters turn brown has been vindicated. Last night I shone my torch into the dark water and saw not one, but 2 crocodiles that have taken up residence in front of the camp. I could see their eyes reflected in the torchlight, cunning, 100-million-year-old lizards. I will tell you now the curious incident of the rhino in the day. I went out looking for elephants. Instead, I cut across the track of a rhino bull who had walked by an hour or 2 before me. The track was a beautiful, dinosaur-sized 3-leaf clover crossing the road. Only 50 meters away, the bull had left an impressive pile of dung. It was the dung that really gave me a good sense that the track was fresh. I should tell you something about me. I am a very good rhino tracker. Whatever happens in life, I always have rhino tracking to fall back on. Talk about a weird skill set. I was actually thinking to myself what a good rhino tracker I was when I lost the rhino's track. Gone. Vanished. This happens. No major problem. Fun fact about rhino footfall is that it can be surprisingly light at times. Now I began to unleash my considerable skill set. I looked for telltale compactions of earth, a scuff of the characteristic side toe. Nothing. Okay, I'm a pro, no problem. I searched for crushed forbs. Even using my nose, I started predicting where the rhino would have gone from the line of the last track. Absolutely nothing. Let's take a moment to talk about rhino here. They are a very routine creature, sleeping, feeding, resting, marking territory, and drinking are pretty much what takes up their dance card for the day. In fact, if you watch them, you can almost see the moment these single thoughts occur to them. It's sometimes like, munch, 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 munch. Sleep. And then he heads off to a shady spot that he knows for a nap. I was certain this bull was making his rounds, so I would just walk ahead and easily cut his track on the open ground. Did I mention the conditions were not very difficult? Good, sandy ground all around. I checked every patch of open ground. Nothing. Not the faintest scuff. I walked a zigzag line checking game paths. Nothing. I wondered if a herd of impala had walked over his tracks. I started to log looping miles. Eventually I went back to the dung and made sure that I had set off on the right course. I had. I saw the same tracks I had seen already, and then the vanishing. I have to tell you, it's pretty frustrating to lose a 2.5-ton animal in pretty open sandy terrain. I was perplexed. I got that perplexed look on my face. I really like the word perplexed. It's so descriptive. I started to lose my cool a bit. Just recently I was a lion tracking river crossing savant. Now this crap. My well-embedded story about my quality as a rhino tracker was being undone by the bloody Pegasus rhino that had miraculously taken flight, and I imagined briefly pinged on air traffic control's radar at the Hoodspruit Air Force Base, causing a moment of UFO-centric national panic. The last sentence should help you understand where my mind was going. Eventually, I went back to the pile of dung and put my small pack down. I would now go very slowly and redo everything I had already done. I was sweating with the pack on, so I discarded it. Moving in slow motion, I crouched down to study the earth. Some years ago, I'd started using tracking as a metaphor to help people learn how to do inner work. In retreat settings, we would use tracking because it was a total non-linear process, just like learning to be yourself. I remember once running a workshop. I was standing in front of a group giving a long speech about how looking for a rhino could be like looking for your purpose and mission in life. I was wrapping up with a flourish, really trying to make the point that so much of finding what we want from life comes out of being willing to try things and begin searching without knowing how. You don't just find rhinos, I said. You have to be willing to head out into the wild without knowing and start paying attention. Rhinos or a clear sense of mission and purpose don't just fall in your lap. You got to start tracking, I said. One of the group then looked at me square in the eye and said with an American accent, "Sir, there is a rhino behind you." And there was. In broad daylight, a rhino had walked out into a clearing behind me. So much for my spiel about purpose and process. Now, back on the Pegasus rhino track, I had nothing. What followed was an hour of a man alone in the woods, inspecting the ground like his life depended on it, sweating profusely, sometimes crawling, and still not a single track. Eventually I broke. I gave up making some kind of excuse like, I wanted to track elephant anyway. I walked the 700 or 800 yards back to my small pack, and there, standing smugly, only a few yards away from the discarded backpack, was Pegasus Rhino, sucking on his fat lips with an air of rhino treachery. He seemed to look at me with small, piggy rhino eyes that said, "Gotcha." And then, as if on cue, he had a thought. Munch, 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 munch. Water. And then he set off to drink, leaving me utterly beaten, watching his huge frame and massive feet cut a trail through the grass that looked like a Los Angeles freeway. I might even in a moment of true patheticness said, "Whatever," to him as he walked off. Oh, tracking, it will keep you so humble. Here is the the brief reflection I wrote whilst annoyed. Losing tracks is part of tracking. Losing yourself is equally natural. That's why we focus on practice, not the outcome. Practice breeds outcomes. And always hope for that day when after all our searching, someone says to you, "Sir, there's a huge fucking rhino behind you." Sometimes it doesn't have to be so hard. I console myself with knowing that even some of Londolosi's most elite trackers lose tracks from time to time. I walked up the hill and started to watch the sun go down. Somewhere, a flock of grey go-away birds started alarming. Go-away! 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 Then a starling started to shout, "Ap, ap, ap, ap." I couldn't see the birds, but there was an auditory story unfolding. Then a pearl-spotted owl called, explaining what all the shouting was about. I felt in conversation with the birds and understanding the story as they told it in their own voices. What a thing to speak with birds. One of my goals was to improve as a tracker, and today I did not shower myself in glory, but still I believe my understanding of this place is more fundamental. If anything, I am more still, so I am more aware. I am more present, so I am more in tune. St. Francis said, "Wherever you go, preach the gospel. Only when absolutely necessary, use words." Everything out here is teaching me, and not a word has been spoken. The natural world is a presence that I am becoming more present to. And all that leaves me with is thank you. 4-0, out.
This has been another episode of the Track Your Life podcast with Boyd Varty. Follow us on Instagram at Boyd_Varty, Twitter at Boyd Varty. Visit Boyd's website at boydvarty.com or subscribe to this podcast in your favorite podcast player. Please rate and review this podcast so that more people can find and enjoy it.